When was the last time you heard anyone talk about Cagiva with the passion it once ignited? Almost never. And that silence tells the entire story. There was a time when this Italian motorcycle manufacturer commanded respect across Europe, winning design awards and turning heads at every bike show that mattered. The red machines looked like rolling sculptures, engineered beauty that promised performance to match the aesthetics. For years, Cagiva felt like Italy's answer to Ducati's dominance. The momentum was real, and the brand rode it all the way to a $300 million valuation. But momentum only lasts when the engineering matches the marketing. Style shifted toward reliability and transparency. Ownership changed hands repeatedly, and the design-first identity that once made Cagiva so desirable slowly turned into a liability when customers discovered what lay beneath those award-winning fairings. The name stayed familiar among enthusiasts, but the trust evaporated. So today's question is simple. How did Cagiva rise this fast? And what turned their design excellence into a $300 million deception? The story of Cagiva isn't just about motorcycles. It's about the power of perception in an industry where performance can't be faked forever. At their peak in the early 1990s, Cagiva motorcycles adorned magazine covers worldwide. Their Mito 125 was the poster bike for an entire generation of European teenagers. Grand Prix victories added racing pedigree to their street credentials. Design awards piled up as critics praised their distinctive Italian flair and boundary-pushing aesthetics. Celebrities and professional racers alike sought the prestige of being seen on these Italian masterpieces. Showrooms couldn't keep them in stock. The Castiglione brothers, who founded the company, were hailed as visionaries who understood that motorcycles could be functional art. They created machines that looked faster standing still than most bikes did at full throttle. But beneath the glossy paint and flowing lines lay a different reality, one of compromised engineering, strategic cost-cutting, and marketing that emphasized style while deliberately obscuring substance. This investigation reveals the three fundamental deceptions that defined Cagiva's meteoric rise and catastrophic fall. A cautionary tale of what happens when a company builds its entire identity on appearances rather than engineering excellence. Cagiva's story begins in the industrial heart of northern Italy. In 1978, brothers Claudio and Gianfranco Castiglione acquired the struggling Aermacchi motorcycle factory in Varese from Harley-Davidson, who had failed to make the acquisition profitable. The Castigliones weren't motorcycle engineers by training. Their family business, M. Via Gusta, specialized in metalworking and precision manufacturing. This outsider perspective proved valuable. Rather than being constrained by motorcycle industry traditions, they approached their new venture with fresh eyes. Their vision was revolutionary, yet simple. Motorcycles should be objects of desire first, transportation second. Claudio famously stated in a 1982 interview, he said, "We build machines that make people dream." He added that technical specifications matter, but emotional response matters more. Their timing could not have been better. The Italian motorcycle industry was struggling against reliable Japanese imports. Ducati was barely surviving. Moto Guzzi was fading. The Castigliones recognized that Italian brands could not compete on reliability metrics alone. They needed to offer something the Japanese could not, an emotional connection through distinctive design. Early models like the SST 125 and 250 showed genuine innovation. The lightweight frames, responsive handling, and distinctive styling earned critical praise. By 1982, Cagiva had established itself as a legitimate contender in the small displacement market, particularly popular among young riders looking for something with more personality than Japanese offerings. Their entry into Grand Prix racing in 1984 proved pivotal. While initial results were modest, the racing program established crucial engineering credibility. By 1985, their distinctive red machines were fixtures on European race circuits. Randy Mamola's podium finishes in 1988 provided marketing gold that translated directly to showroom traffic. What made their approach unique was the deliberate integration of racing aesthetics into production bikes. Unlike competitors who created distinct racing and street models, Cagiva ensured that even their entry-level 125cc bikes visually echoed their Grand Prix machines. This created an aspirational ladder that young riders could climb. From a Mito 125 to the flagship Elephant adventure bike, or a 500cc superbike. By 1987, Cagiva had established a design language that prioritized visual impact above all else. Their bikes looked fast, aggressive, and distinctly Italian. Production had expanded to 40,000 units annually, with strong markets developing in Italy, France, and Germany. The foundation was laid for what would become one of motorcycle history's most remarkable and ultimately unsustainable growth stories. Between 1988 and 1994, Cagiva experienced what industry analysts later called the Italian motorcycle miracle. Annual production doubled to over 80,000 units. Dealer networks expanded across Europe, with flagship stores opening in Paris, Munich, and London. Revenue growth averaged 22% annually, unprecedented in the mature European motorcycle market. The cornerstone of this expansion was design dominance. At the 1991 Milan Motorcycle Show, Cagiva swept the design awards, with the Mito Evolution winning Best Sport Design and the Elephant taking Most Innovative Styling. The influential German magazine Motorrad called Cagiva the new design leaders of the motorcycle industry in their April 1992 issue. These accolades became the centerpiece of Cagiva's marketing campaigns. Celebrity endorsements further elevated the brand beyond traditional motorcycle circles. Formula One drivers, European film stars, and fashion designers were photographed with Cagiva models. The brand transcended its mechanical purpose to become a lifestyle statement, an Italian design object that happened to have two wheels. A pivotal strategic decision came in 1989 when Cagiva acquired Ducati Motor Holding from the Italian government. This move, celebrated in the financial press as a masterstroke, gave Cagiva access to Ducati's legendary desmodromic valve engines. The first Ducati-powered Cagiva models hit the market in 1990, with marketing that heavily emphasized the racing-derived Ducati power plant within their distinctively Cagiva bodywork. Initial customer response was overwhelmingly positive. The Mito 125, powered by a Cagiva two-stroke but styled to mimic larger Ducati-powered models, became Europe's best-selling sport bike in its class by 1992. The larger 900cc models featuring Ducati engines commanded premium prices and attracted customers who might otherwise have chosen Japanese alternatives. Market expansion accelerated. Germany became Cagiva's largest export market, with 15,000 units sold in 1993 alone. The UK market grew by 300% between 1990 and 1994. Even conservative Swiss buyers embraced the brand, with sales quadrupling during the same period. By mid-1994, Cagiva Group's valuation had reached $300 million, comparable to established manufacturers with much longer histories. Investment banks courted the Castiglione brothers with proposals for public offerings. Industry analysts projected continued growth. The company employed over 1,000 people directly, with thousands more working in supplier and dealer networks. To the motorcycle world and financial markets alike, Cagiva represented the successful reinvention of Italian motorcycle manufacturing, proof that a design-led strategy could prevail against the Japanese engineering-focused approach. The momentum seemed unstoppable. But beneath the glossy success story, cracks were forming in the foundation. The rapid expansion had created enormous financial pressure. While revenue was growing impressively, profit margins were shrinking. The company had taken on substantial debt to fund its expansion, with interest payments consuming an increasing portion of operating income. Internal company documents, later revealed during legal proceedings, show that by early 1993, Cagiva's management faced a critical decision: slow growth to maintain quality standards, or continue aggressive expansion by finding cost efficiencies. The Castiglione brothers chose the latter. The first engineering compromises began subtly. Former production manager Antonio Veronese later testified in a class action lawsuit that they were initially instructed to find small savings that would not affect performance, including lighter gauge wires, fewer paint layers, and simplified fasteners. By the middle of 1993, the pressure intensified, and they began replacing quality components with cheaper alternatives across every model line. The most significant change involved moving away from complete Ducati engines in many models. Marketing continued to emphasize Ducati power, but many models from 1994 to 1995 actually contained hybrid power plants with non-Ducati components in critical areas like electrical systems and valve components. These modifications were never disclosed to customers or dealers. Internal quality control reports from this period show alarming trends. Warranty claims increased by 46% between 1992 and 1994. Electrical system failures became particularly common, and one internal memo noted that nearly 30% of all customer complaints related to electrical issues that had been virtually non-existent in previous production years. Engineering teams raised concerns repeatedly. In a particularly heated executive meeting in September 1993, head engineer Paolo Martinelli reportedly warned that these were not cosmetic issues and that basic functionality was being compromised. He said customers would notice, and the reputation damage would be irreparable. According to multiple sources present, Claudio Castiglione dismissed those concerns, saying people buy Cagivas for how they look and how they make them feel, and by the time any problems develop, they will be considering their next purchase anyway. This philosophy, prioritizing initial impression over long-term reliability, became unofficial company policy. Dealer training materials from 1994 explicitly instructed sales staff to emphasize design awards and emotional benefits, and to deflect specific questions about reliability comparisons with Japanese competitors. By early 1995, the warning signs were impossible to ignore. Dealer surveys showed increasing reluctance to stock certain models because of customer complaints. German dealers were particularly vocal, and the Munich Dealer Association formally requested urgent quality improvements in a letter to Cagiva headquarters in February 1995. Rather than addressing the underlying issues, Cagiva doubled down on marketing and expansion. The 1995 model lineup featured more aggressive styling than ever, and advertising budgets increased by 35%. New markets in Eastern Europe and Asia were targeted for growth. The company was betting that style could continue to outweigh substance indefinitely. It was a gamble that would prove catastrophically wrong. By mid-1995, what began as isolated quality concerns had evolved into a full-blown crisis. The deception strategy that had fueled Cagiva's expansion was unraveling on multiple fronts. The company's approach to managing mounting problems was systematic and deliberate. Dealer training manuals from this period, later submitted as evidence in consumer lawsuits, reveal a troubling pattern. One section titled "Managing Customer Expectations" instructed dealers to redirect conversations. When customers inquire about reliability, redirect conversation to design excellence and emotional benefits. Emphasize that all performance vehicles require more maintenance than commuter bikes. Never make direct reliability comparisons with Japanese alternatives. Another section provided scripted responses for common customer complaints. For electrical issues, dealers were told this is a sophisticated European system that requires proper understanding. For engine problems, dealers were told the performance characteristics customers experience are part of the bike's racing heritage. These deflection strategies temporarily masked the extent of the problems, but they could not prevent the mechanical reality from eventually asserting itself. Independent analysis conducted by German motorcycle magazine Motorrad in November 1995 found alarming defect rates across multiple Cagiva models. Their test of 10 randomly purchased Mito 125s revealed that 7 developed significant electrical problems within 5,000 kilometers. 5 required major engine work before reaching 10,000 kilometers. The larger Ducati-powered models fared no better. The hybrid engines, which maintained Ducati branding while incorporating cheaper internal components, proved particularly problematic. Valve train failures, oil consumption issues, and electrical system breakdowns occurred at rates 5 times higher than comparable Ducati models, according to warranty claim data. Customer testimonials from this period paint a devastating picture. Marcus Heilmann of Frankfurt described his experience. "I saved for 2 years to buy my Cagiva. Within 3 months, it had been in the shop 4 times. The dealer kept telling me this was normal for a performance Italian bike. When I demanded they fix it permanently, they said my aggressive riding style had voided the warranty." Similar stories multiplied across Europe. Owners' forums and emerging internet message boards became filled with Cagiva reliability horror stories. A particularly damaging trend emerged. Many customers reported that problems began immediately after their warranty periods expired, suggesting possible planned obsolescence. The media investigation that followed was merciless. British magazine Motorcycle News published a devastating 3-part investigation titled "Style Over Substance: The Cagiva Deception" in February 1996. Using insider sources, they detailed specific cost-cutting measures in the systematic downplaying of reliability issues. French publication Moto Journal followed with their own exposé, comparing actual component quality between 1991 and 1995 models to demonstrate the deliberate degradation. Dealers, once Cagiva's strongest advocates, began rebelling. By mid-1996, nearly 40% of German dealers had either dropped the brand entirely or significantly reduced their inventory. The influential Paris dealer collective announced they would no longer recommend Cagiva products to customers seeking reliable transportation. Even in home market Italy, the dealer network began contracting for the first time since the company's founding. Cagiva's initial response only worsened the situation. Rather than acknowledging problems, they issued a press release in March 1996 claiming the issues were isolated incidents magnified by competitors and that their bikes represented the pinnacle of Italian engineering excellence. This defensive posture, contradicted by thousands of owners' experiences, destroyed what remained of their market credibility. The deception that had built a $300 million empire was now fully exposed. The financial impact was swift and devastating. Sales collapsed by 62% between 1995 and 1997. Dealer networks disintegrated across Europe. Market share in core segments plummeted from dominant positions to single digits. The legal consequences proved equally severe. Class action lawsuits were filed in Germany, France, and Italy, with over 12,000 customers eventually joining the claims. The European Consumer Protection Authority launched a formal investigation into potentially fraudulent advertising practices in April 1996. The financial burden of legal defense, settlements, and emergency warranty programs drained the company's cash reserves. The first major casualty was Ducati. Despite being Cagiva's most valuable asset, the Castiglione brothers were forced to sell the brand to Texas Pacific Group in 1996 to generate emergency capital. The sale, estimated at around $325 million, temporarily stabilized Cagiva's finances, but removed their most prestigious brand and technical resource. Leadership changes followed. Claudio Castiglione stepped down as chief executive officer in late 1996. Though he remained on the board, several senior executives resigned or were dismissed. A restructuring specialist was brought in to assess whether the core Cagiva brand could be salvaged. The brand value destruction was unprecedented in motorcycle industry history. From a peak valuation of $300 million in 1994, Cagiva's market value plummeted to less than $50 million by 1997. Eventually, the motorcycle operations were separated from MV Agusta and sold to Malaysian automotive company Proton for just $70 million in 1997, a fraction of their former value. Employment impacts were equally severe. The Varese factory workforce was reduced from 800 to less than 200. Supplier networks across northern Italy saw orders vanish overnight. Dealership closures eliminated thousands of jobs in sales and service across Europe. Competitors capitalized ruthlessly on Cagiva's collapse. Honda and Yamaha launched aggressive trade-in programs specifically targeting disaffected Cagiva owners. BMW expanded its European dealer network into locations formerly occupied by Cagiva dealers. Triumph, experiencing its own British Renaissance, positioned itself as the European alternative that delivered reliability alongside style. Perhaps most tellingly, industry data showed that 86% of former Cagiva owners switched to non-Italian brands for their next motorcycle purchase. The trust destruction extended beyond a single brand to undermine the entire Italian motorcycle industry's reputation for years afterward. Cagiva's collapse represents a perfect case study in how deceptive business practices eventually destroy even the most promising companies. Their three fundamental mistakes offer timeless lessons applicable across industries. Mistake number 1: style over substance. Cagiva correctly identified a market opportunity: emotional design as a competitive advantage against engineering-focused Japanese manufacturers. The error was not in prioritizing design, but in treating engineering as dispensable. Their early models balanced distinctive styling with adequate performance. It was only when they began systematically compromising functionality to maintain growth that the strategy became unsustainable. As motorcycle journalist Alan Cathcart observed in his 1998 retrospective, Cagiva mistook customers' initial emotional response for their entire value equation. Motorcyclists want beauty and performance, not beauty instead of performance. The alternative approach was demonstrated by competitors like Triumph and BMW, who invested heavily in design while maintaining rigorous engineering standards. Their steady growth curves lacked Cagiva's spectacular peak, but also avoided its catastrophic collapse. Mistake number 2. Deceptive marketing. Cagiva's marketing strategy crossed the line from emphasizing strengths to deliberate misrepresentation. The continued promotion of Ducati power after significant component substitutions constituted false advertising. Training dealers to deflect reliability questions rather than address them destroyed the trust relationship with customers. Marketing professor Carlo Bianchi of Milan University later analyzed Cagiva's advertising materials in 2000, concluding that they created expectations they knew could not be fulfilled. This was not merely optimistic marketing. It was systematic deception designed to create a perception gap between product promise and product reality. The counterexample came from BMW, whose marketing honestly acknowledged their motorcycle's characteristics, including areas where they were not class-leading, while emphasizing their actual strengths. This transparency built lasting customer loyalty that survived occasional model missteps. Mistake number 3. Systematic cover-up. Cagiva's most damaging error was their response when problems emerged. Rather than acknowledging issues and implementing solutions, they created elaborate systems to minimize, disguise, and deflect customer complaints. This transformed correctable quality problems into a fundamental breach of consumer trust. Internal documents later revealed an organization more focused on managing perception than addressing underlying issues. One executive memo from 1995 explicitly stated that customer perception management is more cost-effective than component redesign. This prioritization of optics over operations accelerated the company's downfall. The contrast with Honda's handling of their own quality crisis in the early 1980s is instructive. When Honda CB750 models developed camshaft problems, the company acknowledged the issue immediately, implemented a comprehensive recall, and compensated affected customers. This transparent approach preserved trust through a challenging period. The industry impact of Cagiva's rise and fall extended far beyond one company. Italian motorcycle manufacturers faced years of reliability skepticism from consumers who associated Italian design with potential hidden problems. Ducati, under new ownership, had to invest heavily in quality control systems and transparent customer communication to escape Cagiva's shadow. Perhaps the most significant outcome was the industry's shift toward measurable reliability metrics alongside subjective design assessments. Major motorcycle publications in Europe began incorporating long-term reliability testing into their review processes, a direct response to the Cagiva deception that changed how all manufacturers were evaluated. The Cagiva story remains a powerful warning about the unsustainability of style without substance. Their meteoric rise demonstrated the power of design to capture imagination and open wallets. Their catastrophic fall proved that in performance-critical products, the gap between promise and delivery cannot be bridged by marketing alone. Today, Cagiva exists only as a dormant trademark within the MV Agusta portfolio. Occasional revival rumors surface, but no serious production has resumed. The once dominant brand that produced 80,000 motorcycles annually now produces none. Their showrooms are empty. Their racing heritage exists only in museums and vintage collections. The fundamental lesson transcends the motorcycle industry. Sustainable brand building requires alignment between image and reality. Companies can temporarily accelerate growth through perception management, but long-term success demands that performance matches promises, especially when customer safety and significant financial investment are involved. For today's businesses, Cagiva's cautionary tale is more relevant than ever. In an era of instantaneous information sharing, the consequences of deceptive practices arrive faster and spread wider than in the 1990s. What took years to unravel for Cagiva might collapse in months, or even weeks in today's connected marketplace. The final question isn't whether design-led strategies can succeed. They absolutely can, as Apple, Tesla, and others have demonstrated. The question is whether organizations can resist the temptation to sacrifice substance when growth pressures intensify. Cagiva couldn't, and a once brilliant brand now exists only in fading memories. When companies forget that style must be built upon substance, their $300 million empires inevitably crumble. The silence surrounding Cagiva today speaks volumes about what happens when deception replaces delivery. Reputation takes years to build, moments to destroy, and nearly forever to rebuild. The motorcycle marketplace has moved on. The lesson remains. Cagiva's silence today tells us everything. The $300 million deception is complete. The warning remains eternal. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair, especially when lives and passions intertwine. Remember Cagiva when promises seem too stylish to be true. What brand do you trust that others question? Share below. Subscribe for more hidden business histories that challenge everything you thought you knew about success and failure.